This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, so this is what the agenda is. We'll be talking about the evaluation of your SAP TM system, and then we'll be discussing about the TM functional areas, whatever the functional areas we do have, and then we'll be talking a little bit about the TM process flows and overviews. And once we are done, then I will quickly show you one demo session in the SAP S4HANA 1909 system where I'm sorry, my throat is a little bit uh, down, so it's a little bit hard. So let me just start with the evaluation. So if you look at this evaluation, like I think most of the people are from the SAP background, so uh, prior to 1993, SAP was on R2 system and then move on to R3, and slowly it was expanding different modules. So similar to this, SAP has also come up with SAP Transportation Management 8.0, which was only for the shipper scenario. It was launched in 2007, somewhere in 2007, where they only had shipper scenario as a solution. And then after a couple of years, they have come up with logistics service provider, where like FedEx or your DHL, these are the carriers who are basically responsible for taking the shipment from the manufacturers and deliver it to the customer. So in that case, SAP has come up with a solution called LSP scenario. Just a minute. Yeah, I'm just okay. Yeah. So this is how it was, and then in sometimes in 2015, SAP has launched their SAP uh, S4HANA system layer, where they have provided a new solutioning for HANA-based solution. So SAP at the time, transportation management was also not the part of this HANA database or HANA solution. But so basically SAP was providing a solution like 9.3, 9.4 version as a side-by-side solution. So you had to have your own transportation management box, which you need to connect with your ECC system and all. And for this one, you need to have a connection with the ECC system or something with proxy messages. And if you wanted to have your master data replication, then you need to use your core interface functionality, which is normally used in other modules like APOs. Your EWM systems as well uses the same. But from 1809 onwards, SAP, I'm getting a background noise. Yeah, so from 1809 from 1809 onwards, SAP has come up with an embedded solution where SAP has given the solution into one box, which means like your transportation management will be integrated with other modules like the other solutionings what SAP is providing. So everything was embedded into one system, so that you did not worry about your integration of master data, or you did not. I mean, you are not bothering about your transactional data replication from a ECC system to side-by-side system. But SAP also has given you some solution, like there are some customer who are still on the legacy type of architecture where they are still on ECC system. So in that case, what happens is SAP said, okay, if you don't want to come up on S4HANA, SAP has given a solutioning called SAP TM 9.5 or 9.6, which is basically a standalone system where you will have all the same functionality, whatever the functionality SAP has given on S4HANA 1809. The only difference is you will have your own separate TM box, and then you need to communicate with your as other system, like suppose your sales and distribution or your materials management system is on S4 HANA, but your transportation management is on normal without S4HANA. So it's basically a side-by-side solution like standalone system. Then you need to communicate your uh, TM system with the other system using your proxy messages, or you use your SIF core interface solution, which basically used to communicate your master data. I mean, transferring the master data from one system from your source system to the TM system. So that's how SAP has given the solution. So it's up to the customer's preference. If they want to go on S4 HANA, then they can go with 1809. But right now, SAP has launched their 2020 version. But right now, in the market, I think 1909 is the latest one, which most of the companies have started implementing solution for transportation management side. But if in case if they don't want to go on S4 HANA suite, then they can use a standalone system, which is SAP TM 9.5 or 9.6 system. So moving on to this one, so this is basically a process flow, which basically tells you the whole crux of SAP transportation management, that how the document looks like whenever it is integrated with other modules. So for the transportation management side, we don't bother about whether this is basically an inbound or outbound scenario. Like normally when you talk about your STOs or outbound deliveries or inbound deliveries, but for transportation side, everything is exactly same. We don't treat it because we only deal with the locations and all. So let's say, suppose I'll just give you an example. Like suppose you have one customer order. So what you normally do is you create the sales order in the SN sales and distribution module. So once you create a sales order in your system, now then so basically there are two things. Like suppose if you are using a side-by-side solution or a standalone transportation management system, in that case, you need to replicate the same sales order information in the TM system. So in that case, what happens is you need to create an OTR. OTR is order-based transportation requirement. It is nothing but it's just a replica of a sales order. And this document will be created in the transportation management. It is a replica of a sales order information system, sales order information, because uh, transportation management needs some type of source document. From there onward, system will start creating some other documents, like like freight units or freight orders or freight bookings kind of thing. So SAP TM requires a base document. So that's why they just replicate the same sales order specific information to the TM system as an OTR. But this OTR document is only created whenever we talk about the standalone system. Like you already have one ECC box, and you have your own transportation management box in a separate instance, and you are communicating with one system to, I mean, from your ECC system to your transportation system, transportation management system. In that case, your OTR comes into the picture. But when we talk about S4HANA 1809 system or in a 1909 system, this I would say this OTR is now obsolete, because this is only used whenever we are integrating with the external system, because 1809 system is integrated with your transportation management along with the other modules. So in that case, what happens is freight unit gets created directly. So freight unit is nothing but it's basically a smallest unit or smallest transportation unit, which is required to transport the stuff from your. It will always link together throughout the life cycle of a transportation process. So let's say, suppose you are creating a sales order for I would say like uh, like you are in the building product uh, sector, and you are creating a sales order for, let's say, 5 tons of cement. And but only your truck can load only 1 tons of cement in one truck. So you want to make sure, like, whenever you build your freight units, every time it should be exactly 1 ton or less, but it should not be more than 1 ton, so that it will automatically easy for the planner to plan the truck. So in that case, what happens is you usually have some type of freight unit building rule. We call it as unit building rule. That freight unit building rule will decide that how many numbers of freight units will be created based upon some planning quantities or based upon your planning weight or whatever the critical quantity you can think of. Like, if in case if you want to make sure, like, if whenever I create a sales order, every time only the 10 quantities should be included and make it as one freight unit, which means it will transport it every time, it will be transported together. It will not divided in between of the transportation process. So in that case, what happens is you can using your freight unit building rule, and based on that freight unit building rule, you can create your freight unit. So once the freight unit is created, then here comes the transportation planners, or the planning comes into the picture. So this transportation planning, basically what it does is, suppose you have a manufacturing unit somewhere in New York, and you want to send your customer to a specific region, let's say Midwest or somewhere in Chicago. So like Chicago region is a very big region. So what you need to do is, in the transportation planner, uh, they basically take all the loads which are shipping out from New York to our region Chicago. So in that case, we will create some selection profiles, which basically tells that if anything which is shipping out from our plant New York and to the customer location somewhere in the Chicago. So if, let's say, suppose your Chicago falls under uh, Illinois state or any Midwest area. So you create a region or a zone. Inside the zone, you will have all the freight units. So when the freight unit is built, every freight unit will have their source and destination location. So when you do a planning, in that planning, what you normally do is you check all the freight units, that whether the freight unit is shipping out from a New York plant and it is shipping out to a specific destination location. So if it is falling under that particular region, then automatically that freight unit will be automatically picked up for planning. So in that planning, what you normally do is you will have different types of planning profile settings. Like, you will have your own optimizer settings, like, how your strategy you want to build your planning, whether you want to do your own carrier selection, at the same time you want to do a charge calculation, you want to do your tendering process, what are the charges you're going to take up, whether you want to consider the charges based upon some transportation lane settings, or you want to set up explicitly a different charges which will be set up directly in the planning profile, or if you have any specific contract with the carrier, like a business share or a transportation allocation. So based on those business share or transportation allocations, system will automatically gives preference to a specific carrier whenever it plans to a specific region. So those are the things which will be tightly integrated inside a planning profile, and that planning profile itself will be responsible to create a freight order. I mean, that's how normally do works in the industry, because this planning is usually done in the background. It depends on the business to business, because in my earlier project, we used to have like this planning used to execute every hours. But in my current project, we usually have some planning at night, because we usually have large volume and we don't want to mess up the whole planning process, especially in the daytime. So better to execute in the background. So that's all the strategies, and all these planning profiles will be taken care. And once the planning is done, automatically the system creates a freight order. So once the freight order is created, so usually what happens is, in the planning profile we have one setting called optimizer settings. Inside this optimizer, we used to tell, like, what is the planning strategy, like, whether you want just to build the freight order, or you want to do a carrier selection together, or you want to do a tendering as well. So based upon those type of strategies, system will start executing, like, if, like, suppose if it is a three step process. So three-step process is like, you first build the freight order. So once the freight order is done, and then there will be another job which basically checks who are the carriers based upon your carrier ranking list, based upon the cost which is defined at the transportation level, or if you have some priority of for a specific carrier at the transportation level, you can set up that one. Or if you have some type of some strategy like cost plus priority, like, you give both as a strategy, like, I want to consider the cost as well as the priority. So those are the settings which will be done at the carrier selection settings. So once the carrier selection is determined, then you want to do a tendering process. So in tendering process, you send the message to your carrier that, hey, this is my load which is shipping out from this location to this location, and it will have 10 stops or 20 stops or 5 stops, depending on your planning profile strategies and all. System will build the truck. So once the carrier receives the tendering information, that information will, the carrier will either reject or accept. So if it accepts, that's well and good. If it rejects, then you need to have a tendering process to re-trigger so that you can send it to the next carrier. Or if you have some other type of process like broadcasting, like, if you have 10 carriers in a specific region, so if your first carrier rejects your uh, your tendering information, so what you gonna do next? Either are you gonna use it to the carrier who is on the rank 2 or the second choice, or you want to broadcast to all the other carriers. So that strategies will be defined inside the tendering profile. So once the tendering profile triggers, the tendering process itself is a big thing. I mean, because you need to communicate with your carrier, and there is a specific EDI message which is sent out from, it is EDI 214, which is sent out from your transportation management system to the carrier system. And then when the carrier sends a response back to you, then it becomes EDI 990. And that EDI 990 will be needs to be updated in the system, which basically tells you that whether the specific request for quotation, the tendering RFQ which you sent out to the carrier, has been accepted or rejected. So those information will be coming under the tendering process. So once the tendering is done, and then after, you might have to, to trigger your delivery process. Let's say, suppose you want to do your delivery process. Let's say your ship, you have to send a message to your shipping department that, hey, this carrier is supposed to come on specific date, and now let's start, building up the truck kind of thing, or start accumulating the orders and everything. So in that case, what happens is you send a message. It's basically internal, because we are talking about S4HANA, which is basically an internal system. So you don't need to see any much difference because everything is in the background. You will not even feel. But whenever you talk about standalone system, you will see, like, it again sends a proxy message from your standalone TM system to uh, to ECC system with a proxy message, which basically tells the ECC system to create a delivery document. So, so once the delivery document created in the system, so we call it as a delivery proposal process. So the delivery proposal process is basically sent out from your freight order from the TM system to ECC system. So once the delivery gets created, as I said, the sales order, when the sales order is replicated to the TM system, it becomes OTR. Similarly, when the delivery gets created, excuse me, uh, the TM creates a document, which is a source document for delivery called DTR, which is delivery based transportation requirement. And whatever, and so the freight units which were created earlier and it was assigned to the OTR will be automatically assigned or redirected to the DTR document, because the OTR will be consumed and it will no more used, because all the planning is already being done. Now the delivery process comes up. So whatever the freight units the system has generated in the initial stage will automatically assign to the DTR document. So once this DTR documents uh, gets created, automatically it updates in the freight unit level. And then after you do your charge calculation based upon your carrier agreements and all. So once the carrier agreement is done and once your goods issue or once your order is out from your shipping point or plant, so what you normally do is you have to do a settlement process because you have to make a payment to the carrier. So based on this process, you do a settlement process. So what happens is when the delivery says that, hey, my this PTI is done, so you send a message back to freight order or the information to the freight order, and then there are some settings in the background which basically automatically creates a settlement document in the background. So once the settlement gets created, we need to do a vendor payment, so carrier payment. So for this one, we have generally two documents gets created. One is your purchase order, which is a service PO, as well as the service entry sheet is the actual services, whatever the services the carrier has given to you. So those information will be created in the ECC system or in the system, I would say. So there is an integration between your ECC from your TM to system here, where you do some integration. Similarly, there are some integration over here from your sales and distribution or module from your sales order to OTR or to freight unit. And similarly, there are some integration between your delivery document to your DTR to the TM. But in your S4HANA 1809 or 1909 system, SAP, since as I said, like, everything is into one box because it is an embedded solution. So you don't need to do a proper integration because these two documents, your OTR and DTR is no more used because you are on the same system. So why do you need to create a duplicate data in the SAP system? So SAP has come up with a new concept called logistics integration profile, which basically is responsible to create a freight unit directly instead of OTR and DTR. So those informations I will be, explaining you more about during my training because in that case, because that itself is a very vast concept, you need to understand a lot of things whenever you build your own logistic integration profile, that how the system will react, what will be the order quantity, or whether you want to consider the confirmed quantity, and what are the incoterms, because you need to pay the whose responsibility for the carrier charges and all. So those are the things which will be coming during our training session. But this is the whole crux of that, how the TM process looks. These are the documents which will be creating uh, these number of documents in the TM system whenever it is integrated with other modules. Moving on to this slide. So basically, as I said, these are the different processes. So SAP TM has usually four different processes. One is order management, one is planning, one is execution, and the last one is the settlement. So don't get confused because SAP is segregated your transportation management into four different parts. So your order management, planning, execution, and settlement are four different processes in transportation management. So in case of order management, you will see, whenever we are integrating with our with sales and distribution or materials management system. So in that case, you need to develop your order-based transportation requirement or OTR or DTR or your freight unit. All these part of your order management because you are integrating with your other modules. So once these document gets automatically created in this transportation management system, then it comes into the planning process. So as I said, planning process itself is a very vast topic, which includes your selection profile, your planning profile, and each selection profile has different type of settings, like your time related selection attributes, which basically tells you what is the time, like how many numbers of orders and which orders do you want to pick up in your planning. Like suppose your pickup date is on maybe from next 1 month or from tomorrow to next 30 days. So those will be coming up in your time related selection attribute, which is a part of your selection profile. Then it comes as a geographical selection attribute that is basically again a part of your selection profile, which basically tells you that what all different types of orders you're gonna pick up in your selection, and plus some type of additional attributes if in case if something you want to explicitly take care, like suppose you have your STOs and you want to plan only the STOs, not the other documents in the region, then you can do, or you can control those type of settings through additional selection attributes in the selection profile. And then planning profile itself is a very vast topic, because till now, I mean, I've been working for several years, but still I'm learning, because that part is like, because SAP has given a solution which is basically an algorithm, and that algorithm is written in the C++ and which runs at the kernel level of SAP. So we cannot see what logic SAP uses to optimize the freight order or the load. We can only feed the information and then we will get the response back from the algorithm. So those are the things which normally, over a period of time, we will get the experience, like, if you change your distance and duration cost, how your optimizer respond based upon whether it is going to create two trucks or one truck based upon this. So you need to do a lot of things in the planning profile. It's not a small piece of cake which you can do, because everything is dependent on the planning profile. So those are the things which we'll be discussing about in the training. Plus, you can do the manual planning. So on the fly, if in case your transportation planner does wants to do some type of planning manually, they can do that using manual planning through transportation cockpit. Plus, as I said, like, if in case if you want to communicate with the carrier to do some tendering process kind of thing, then you can do this thing, or carrier selection and freight procurement. All these things you can do it in the planning stuff. So once your planning is done, then your freight order gets created, or a freight booking for air or for ocean scenario. So once your excuse me, your freight order gets created, so how you want to load the truck, whether you want to load, what will be the sequence of loading into the truck, like last in first out, or what is the sequence, what is the axle weight, where do you want to put your specific load to a specific place in the truck. So all these things will become under this load planning. If in case if you are integrating with the custom for international orders kind of thing, then you need to integrate your custom where the GTS will come into the picture, SAP GTS. And based upon your freight agreements or the carrier's agreement, you can do a charge calculation based upon the agreements which you set up in your system. Plus, if in case if you want to do track and trace, like if your truck goes from coast to coast, let's say suppose it is going out from your east coast to west coast in US, it might be close to 2600 miles coast to coast. So you want to track the status of your truck, because that itself will take 3 or 4 days. So you want to keep track so that those information will be updated uh, in the system, so that if in case the customer wants to get an update about their orders, you can track those information about the status of their orders. So once everything will be done, then you do a settlement process that is itself is a part of your freight settlement, and then you do a financial and controlling posting, FICO postings and all, and then you do a freight posting. So it depends, like if it is an intercompany STOs kind of thing. So whose responsibility for the freight cost based upon your outline agreements. So in that case, what you normally do is, like, suppose you, as per your example, I'm just giving one example, like for intercompany STOs, like your supplying plant, your receiving plant, and you have an outline agreement where you says everything will be included, the cost will be included, including the supplying plant will bear the cost, the freight cost. So in that case, how you want to do the settings in the system, so that system will automatically assign those freight costs directly to the supplying plant instead of the receiving plant. So those are the settings will be done in the settlement area. Uh, this one I was already talking about track and trace, which is basically an event management, but it is not actually a part of this because that part of this training, because event management itself is a different module altogether. It's kind of, Very few companies, I would not say like all companies, very few companies, they normally use this event management if they want to integrate the real time or track or trace of their freight orders. For this carrier integration, we usually have a collaboration portal, but SAP has come up with a new functionality called Logistic Business Network, LBN, which basically used to integrate, like suppose the carrier, they don't have their own portal or they don't have EDI system, they can directly come to our collaboration portal and they can log into our system as a portal, and then they can see all those requests for quotations, RFQs and all, and they can accept or reject. So those are, I will give you a heads up, but I don't think this is, I mean, we can set up this thing because that itself is a very big thing, but I'll give you some concept that how it is being worked and all. Regarding reportings, there are a lot of reportings are there. Like, we do have based upon your uh, requirement, like if what are the open orders kind of thing, or if you want to see like for a specific region, you can create your own work list. So those are the things you can do it in the Fury apps as well. And with this master data, we do have a lot of master data, I would say, from the transportation network. If you talk about the transportation network, because as I said initially, like, all customer locations or the vendor location or itself or our own plant is actually a location in our system. So how the locations are being replicated in the system, those I will show you. And then these locations will be assigned to a specific zone like New York zone or Midwest or California. It depends on the strategies, like, business. It depends on the business call, like, whether they want to create a zone based upon the states, based upon a specific region. Let's say suppose uh, you have some type of area which you normally cover in a specific region, which includes 3 or 4 states. You can create your own zone in that case. So how you want to build your own zones, and once you build the zones, then you create a lane. Lane is a legitimate route between one location or zone to another zone. So if you suppose you are transporting from your New York to California, so you might need to create one, either you create one location as a New York shipping point, and then California will be created as a, you can create a location, or you can create a zone if it is more than one location, and then you create a lane between the two system and say and mention, like, between between these two zones, you operate your rail transport, or only operate full truckload, you don't operate less than truckload. All these things will be set up in the transportation lane level, and then you will have your own carrier schedules and routes. Those will be ocean scenario and all. Regarding the resources and all, we do have different type of resources, like, vehicles, trailers, your calendar, your handling resources, or transportation equipment. So those are the resources which will be used throughout your transportation life cycle. Those are the master datas. Plus, as I said, like, we usually set up an agreement with the carrier. So how the carrier's agreement will be set up, and what are the different types of agreements, how the calculation sheet comes into the picture, what are the rate tables, what are the charge types, and what are the scales. Those are the things which that itself is a very vast topic, I would say. And but we will be discussing in depth on the charge management itself. Okay. So this is my contact. If in case if anybody wants to reach out to me, this is my India number, but I live in US, but still I use this number very well. So let me just quickly show you that how SAP TM looks like. I think, yeah. So let me just log into SAP TM 1909. Yeah, just give me a minute. Yeah. So let me just log into the system. So I'm opening up the Fury Launchpad. So this is how the Fury 1909 system looks like. You will see different types of tiles will be available, specific for transportation management system. So you can see like, you will have your order management, your logistic integration, your planning, your settlement, your contract like agreements, your charge management are the charges which you normally set up, your master data if in case if you want to set up, plus your profile itself is a very big topic. You can see all these different type of settings you're gonna set up for profiles, and then you will have your own application administrations and all. So let me just show you that how it looks. So let me just create one example for you, and then I can show you that how it looks. uh, Standard order. So I'm creating a sales order with material 6212, which has a quantity of 10 for this customer. So let me just save this document. Okay, so you can see the sales order 1137 gets created in the sales order in the system. So let me just open this document. So when you create this document, you can see this TM status here. So this basically tells you whether the TM system, the transportation management module, gets integrated with your sales and distribution system. Since it is TM, this embedded system 1909, so you can see everything in a different way. I will show you that how it looks compared to standalone system. So if you click on this one, you just notice like, I just create one sales order, but system create two different freight units. So these are the two different freight units, right? One is your 655 and one is your 656. So this basically, let me just copy this one. Let me just copy. I'll show you. You can see it from there as well. So let me just go to the planning and edit freight unit. If you open this one, yeah. So you can see the freight unit itself gets created automatically. So we do have some type of freight unit building rule strategy. Like if anything more than 40 kg or something, it will automatically uh, create multiple documents. So that's why you can see there is system created two different documents, one with the quantity of 4 and one with quantity of 60. Maybe I think the net weight or something like needs to be checked here. This is the freight unit building rule. This basically tells you what is the, yeah, so it has some type of, the split quantity is 7. So basically based on this number of quantities, system will automatically split into uh, consider into the consideration, but it has a rounding quantity of 4. So system cannot load 7 in one go because it should be go with a bundle of 4 in one lot because we have a rounding quantity. So those are the settings which we normally do it in the system so that the system will automatically generate the freight unit. So those are itself is a very I just shown you the glimpse of that how the sales and sales order is integrated with the system, but this is how it looks like. So you can see so if you click on your document flow here, you will see like, you can, instead of looking at the some document, you can now see your freight units is automatically integrated with this one. Okay. Now I was talking about your uh, planning process. So that planning will automatically show you that how the planning done. So if I go to this planning, so if I select this one, this is basically a cockpit which basically executes, and you might see if you're working on transportation management module, you might see like, most of the planet, like 90% of the time, they usually spend on this screen. it's basically a very detailed detailed screen which basically has the whole information about a specific region. Like I said, like if you have a specific region, like if you are shipping out from a New York to a California, so one transportation planner who would be responsible only for New York region, so they will be using, or they will be, every time they will be opening up this cockpit and they will keep monitoring all these informations. So whatever the sales order you gets created automatically will be replicated in this system. So if in case if you want to do a planning, let's say, I think I do have some type of planning, so I will show you. Let me just do planning like you. I can go here and do a planning. So once I do the planning, system will automatically start spinning. Okay, so maybe based upon the some cost, system is not allowing me. One sec. Okay, so refresh. Yeah, so when you're done with the planning, what happens is automatically your freight order gets created. So you can see it here. And once the so it's opening up. So you can see this is a freight order, and this this freight order itself will have your freight units which you just created in the planning process before planning. I mean planning process flow I'm talking about. So if you click on this one, you will see there is a planning freight unit, and you can clearly see this carrier was assigned to this freight order. So who is responsible for taking out the shipment from this location? This will be your shipping point to a customer location. It's somewhere in PA. And if in case if you want to see what are the charges, you can click on this one. Okay, so it's a pickup process. So it's a pickup. So pickup means like your customer will come bring their own stuff. So you don't need to do your own charge calculation. So that's why it's not showing up anything here. Let me just open some other document for your reference. I created some of them. I believe this is the one, I guess. Okay. Yeah, charge calculation. Yeah, so you can see it is same, like it is going from one location to another, and it has a rate of 400 US dollars, which is a basic rate. And this order is communicated from, it's going out from your shipping location to this location. Okay, so that's how it looks. And then if you want to do a settlement, you can do your settlement process. But settlement process itself is a big settings which might be needed. Uh, yeah, so that's how it should be. Uh, So let me know if you have any question.